Welcome to Speak English with me.
Improve your vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation with our engaging lessons.
Hi everyone, welcome back. We're really happy you're here because today's topic is one that almost every English learner struggles with at some point. We're talking about three very small words: since, from, and for.
They look harmless, don't they? Then you're in the middle of a conversation, your brain suddenly freezes, and you think, wait, which one do I use?
I've been there with other languages, so I know that feeling. You know what you want to say, but one tiny word refuses to cooperate.
And the funny thing is, these little words often cause more trouble than long, complicated vocabulary. You can learn a word like environment or communication, but then one simple sentence with since or for makes you stop and think.
That's why we wanted to make this episode. We don't want to give you a list of grammar rules to memorize. We want you to hear these words in real conversations, real stories, and real situations so they begin to feel natural. Before we get started, if these conversations help you feel more confident speaking English, we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. It really supports us, and it means you won't miss our future episodes packed with practical English you can use every day.
Thanks for being here with us. Whether you're walking outside, driving to work, washing the dishes, or simply relaxing at home, we're glad you're spending this time learning with us.
Let me ask you something. Has anyone ever corrected your English and afterwards you thought, I've been saying that the wrong way for months?
Oh, that happened to me when I was learning Spanish. I was using one small word incorrectly again and again. People understood me, but one day a friend smiled and said, "You know, there's a more natural way to say that."
How did you feel?
At first, a little embarrassed. Then I started laughing because I'd repeated the same mistake so many times without noticing. My friend wasn't trying to make me feel bad, she simply wanted to help.
That's such an important point. If someone corrects your English kindly, it's a gift. They're helping you sound more natural.
I still remember that conversation because after that day, I never made the same mistake again. Sometimes one small correction stays with you for years.
Speaking of mistakes, I remember teaching an online lesson a few years ago. A student told me, I live in this city from 5 years.
I already know what happened next.
I smiled because everything else in the sentence sounded wonderful. His pronunciation was clear, his confidence was growing, and he spoke without stopping. There was only one little word that needed changing.
Did he notice the mistake?
Not at all. He looked very pleased with his answer. So instead of interrupting him immediately, I waited until he'd finished speaking.
I like that approach because when learners are speaking confidently, stopping them every few seconds can make them nervous.
That's what I think too. When he finished, I said, "Your sentence is almost perfect. Let's just change one small word." His eyes became wide and he said, "Only one?"
I love that reaction.
Then I replaced one word and suddenly the sentence sounded completely natural.
Isn't that amazing? Sometimes fluency isn't about learning 20 new expressions. Sometimes it's about improving one tiny detail.
And those tiny details add up. Month after month, your English becomes smoother, clearer, and more natural.
Here's another example I've heard many times. Someone asks, "How long have you been studying English?" The learner replies, "I've been studying English since 3 years."
Again, the listener usually understands the meaning.
Yes, communication isn't broken, but native speakers would choose a different word there.
Today, we're going to show you why, and you'll hear so many examples that by the end of the episode, you'll probably catch yourself noticing these words everywhere.
That's something I find fascinating. Once your brain learns a new pattern, it suddenly starts finding it in films, podcasts, books, and everyday conversations.
It's almost like buying a new car.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Imagine you buy a blue car. Before buying it, you hardly noticed that model. Then suddenly you see the same car at traffic lights, in supermarket car parks, outside cafes, and everywhere else.
It feels as though everyone bought the same car on the same day.
Nothing actually changed, your brain simply started paying attention.
Learning English works in a very similar way. Once you understand something, your ears become much better at finding it.
So today, don't worry about remembering every explanation immediately.
Instead, listen to the conversations. Listen to how these words appear naturally.
Let's begin with 2 simple questions. Emma, how long have you lived in your current home?
I've lived there for 6 years.
Nice. Now let me ask the same topic differently. When did you move there?
I moved there in 2020, so I've lived there since 2020.
Did everyone notice that? I didn't ask the same question twice.
That's the secret. The topic stayed the same, but the information changed.
Let's try another one. How long have you known your best friend?
I've known her for almost 15 years.
And when did you first meet?
We met at secondary school, so I've known her since we were teenagers.
Those answers feel completely natural because each question is looking at your experience from a different direction.
Here's one for everyone listening. Don't just listen to us. Answer out loud if you can. How long have you been learning English?
Take a few seconds. There's no rush.
Maybe your answer is, I've been learning English for 2 years.
Or perhaps, I've been learning English since last summer.
Both answers could be correct. They simply tell us different pieces of information.
Throughout today's conversation, we'll keep coming back to everyday situations like work, travel, family, hobbies, and friendships, because that's where these little words appear all the time.
And our goal isn't simply to help you avoid mistakes. We want these expressions to become part of your everyday English, so one day you'll use them naturally without stopping to think.
That's something I really hope happens, because there's a wonderful moment in language learning when you stop translating every sentence in your head. You simply hear something, understand it, and then use it yourself without even thinking about the rule behind it.
I remember the first time that happened to me. It wasn't in a classroom. I was chatting with a friend over coffee, and halfway through our conversation, I realized I'd been speaking for several minutes without mentally checking every sentence. It felt surprisingly freeing.
Those little victories are easy to miss because they're not dramatic. Nobody claps. There isn't a certificate waiting for you. But they're often the moments that show you you're making real progress.
That's why I always tell learners to celebrate small improvements. Maybe today you speak for 30 seconds without stopping. Next month you manage 2 minutes. Those changes matter.
Speaking of small improvements, let's spend a little time with one word that appears almost everywhere in English. For.
It's one of those words that quietly works in the background. We hear it every day, so we sometimes forget how useful it really is.
Imagine we're meeting after work. Hi, Emma. You look tired.
I am. I've been working for 10 hours today.
That sounds completely natural because you're talking about the length of your work.
Here's another one. I waited for 20 minutes before the train arrived.
Again, you're telling me the duration.
Now let's change the situation. Last weekend, my cousin came to visit and we spent the afternoon walking through the city. We found a little bookshop, bought some coffee, and then sat in the park talking for nearly 3 hours. The funny thing was, neither of us noticed how quickly the time passed. When we finally looked at our watches, we both laughed because it felt as though we'd only been sitting there for 30 minutes.
I love days like that. Time seems to disappear when you're enjoying yourself.
It really does. And without even trying, I used for because I was talking about how long we spent talking together.
That's something worth noticing. The word fits naturally into everyday stories.
Here's another story. My younger brother started learning the guitar last year. At first, he practiced for 15 minutes every evening because his fingers became tired quite quickly. A few months later, he could happily practice for an hour, and now he sometimes loses track of time because he's enjoying it so much.
That reminds me of when I started cooking. My first meal took forever because I kept checking the recipe every few seconds. I'd spend 2 hours preparing something that disappeared from the plate in 10 minutes.
I think we've all had that experience.
Thankfully, cooking became easier with practice. Now I can prepare dinner much faster, although washing the dishes still seems to take forever.
That's the part nobody looks forward to.
Very true.
Here's a question for everyone listening. Think about your own daily routine. What's one activity you do for a long time?
Maybe you study for 2 hours.
Maybe you travel to work for 40 minutes.
Maybe you read before bed for half an hour.
Or maybe you spend far too long scrolling through your phone.
I wasn't going to mention that one.
Someone had to.
Fair enough.
The point is that for becomes very natural when you're talking about the length of an activity.
Now, I'd like to show something interesting. Listen carefully to these two questions. How long have you worked here?
I've worked here for 4 years.
Then imagine I ask another question. When did you start working here?
I started in 2022, so I've worked here since 2022.
Notice how the conversation changes without becoming complicated.
You're simply answering a different question.
Sometimes learners worry because they think native speakers are secretly remembering grammar rules while talking.
They're usually not. They're thinking about ideas, memories, plans, jokes, and stories. The grammar has become automatic because they've heard it thousands of times.
That's why we keep giving you conversations instead of lists.
Speaking of conversations, let's imagine two friends meeting after a holiday.
How was your trip?
It was fantastic. We stayed in a small village for 5 days.
What did you enjoy the most?
Honestly, the peaceful mornings. We'd wake up early, open the window, and all we could hear were birds. After living in a busy city, that quiet felt very special.
That sounds wonderful.
It really was. We even forgot what day it was because life became so relaxed.
I think many people dream about a holiday like that.
Probably.
Let's look at another situation. Suppose your friend says, "I've been waiting for you."
That's a sentence you'll hear all the time.
Maybe you've arrived late for lunch.
Or maybe someone has been standing outside the cinema while you searched for your keys.
Hopefully not for too long.
Hopefully.
Here's something learners sometimes ask me. How long do I have to? That's a good question. Most of the time you'll hear things like for 2 days, for an hour, for 6 months, or for a long time. You're measuring the duration of something.
And don't worry if you occasionally need a second to think. Fluency grows through repetition, not speed.
That's a sentence worth remembering.
I wish more learners believed it. Sometimes people compare themselves with someone who's been studying English for 10 years, even though they've only been learning for a few months.
Comparison can steal your confidence.
It certainly can.
I once met 2 students who started the same course together. One spoke very confidently from the beginning, while the other was much quieter. A few months later, the quieter student apologized to me and said, "I think I'm the slowest learner in the class."
That's sad to hear.
It was, because it wasn't true. She wasn't slow, she was simply careful. She liked thinking before she spoke.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Not at all. A year later, she was holding relaxed conversations in English, and she told me something I'll never forget. She said, "I stopped worrying about sounding perfect, and that's when speaking became enjoyable."
I love that because it's something every learner needs to hear. Progress doesn't always arrive with huge changes. Sometimes it quietly appears while you're having an ordinary conversation.
Before we move on, let's give everyone listening a tiny speaking challenge. I'll ask a question and you answer out loud. How long have you had your current mobile phone?
Take your time.
Maybe you say, "I've had it for 3 years."
Here's another one. How long have you been interested in learning English?
Your answer might be, "I've been interested in English for several years."
Or perhaps you've only recently started, and that's wonderful too.
Every journey begins somewhere.
And every conversation you have in English helps the next one feel a little easier.
I like that thought because every conversation makes the next one feel a little easier. Now let's move to another word that learners often mix up with since, and that's from. They can sometimes appear in similar topics, but they don't do the same job.
I think this is where many people become unsure. They'll say something like, "I've lived here from 2020," because they know they're talking about a starting point.
And that's a very understandable mistake. The year looks right, but in that sentence we'd naturally choose since. On the other hand, from is very comfortable talking about movement, places, or one point leading to another.
Let's imagine I'm coming to visit you. Where are you traveling from?
I'm traveling from Manchester.
That sounds completely natural because we're talking about the place where your journey begins.
Now let's change the situation. What time does the meeting run?
It runs from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Notice that from likes having a destination as well. We often hear from to.
You'll hear it everywhere, from Monday to Friday, from the airport to the hotel, from page 10 to page 20. Once you start listening for it, you'll realize how common it is.
Here's a funny memory. A friend once invited me to his house and said, "It's only 5 minutes from the station."
That sounded easy enough.
That's what I thought. I got off the train, looked in the wrong direction, and somehow turned a 5-minute walk into 25 minutes.
Oh no!
When I finally arrived, he opened the door laughing and said, "I was beginning to think you decided not to come."
I can picture that conversation already.
I told him your directions were perfect, my sense of direction wasn't.
That's an important phrase too. Sometimes people ask, "How far is it from here?" You'll hear that while traveling all the time.
Let's try a few quick examples together. Where are you from?
I'm from Pakistan.
Where did this letter come from?
It came from my cousin.
What are your office hours?
We're open from 8 to 5.
Short, simple, and very natural.
Now let's compare two sentences because this is where today's episode really comes together. I've worked here since 2022.
You're telling me when your job began.
I work from Monday to Friday.
Now you're talking about your weekly schedule.
Both sentences include time, but they're giving completely different information.
That's a great habit for learners. Instead of asking, which word comes before a year, ask yourself, what am I trying to say?
Am I talking about the beginning of something that's still continuing? Am I describing a journey? Or am I talking about one point leading to another?
Once you think about the meaning first, the correct word often becomes much easier to choose.
Before we finish this part, here's another speaking challenge for everyone listening. Answer these questions out loud if you can. Where are you from?
What time do you usually work or study from?
And if you're learning English, can you tell someone where you're from and what hours you normally study?
They might seem like simple questions, but they're the kind people ask every day. And the more naturally you answer them, the more confident you'll become in real conversations.
I hope you're starting to notice something. These 3 little words aren't competing with each other. They each have their own job, and once you see that, speaking becomes much less stressful.
That's such a reassuring feeling, because many learners think they have to remember hundreds of grammar rules. In reality, everyday English is often about understanding the purpose of a word instead of memorizing long explanations.
Let's finish with one final conversation where all 3 words appear naturally. Emma, you've been learning photography recently, haven't you?
I have, and I've really enjoyed it. I've been taking lessons for about 6 months now.
Nice. When did you begin?
I started in January, so I've been learning since January. At first, I only used my phone camera, but now I take my camera everywhere.
Where do you usually take photos?
It depends on the day. Sometimes I walk from my house to the park early in the morning because the light is beautiful. Other days, I travel from one part of the city to another, looking for interesting streets and colorful buildings.
Have you noticed yourself improving?
Definitely. At the beginning, I was always thinking about the camera settings. Now I spend more time enjoying the moment than worrying about every little detail.
I think that's true for language learning as well. At first, you're thinking about every word. Then, one day, you suddenly realize you've just had a conversation without stopping every few seconds.
Those moments are wonderful because they remind you that all your practice has been worthwhile.
Before we say goodbye, let's do one quick review.
If you're talking about how long something has continued, you'll often hear for.
If you're talking about when something began and it's still continuing, you'll usually hear since.
And when you're talking about a starting place, a starting time, or one point leading to another, from is often the natural choice.
Don't worry if you still make mistakes occasionally. Every fluent English speaker has spent years learning, practicing, and correcting little errors along the way.
One thing that really helps is listening carefully whenever you're watching films, YouTube videos, or podcasts. When you hear since, from, or for, pause for a second and ask yourself why that word was used. It only takes a moment, but over time, you'll begin recognizing the patterns much more quickly.
And don't be afraid to use these words in your own conversations. Even if you make a mistake, you're giving yourself a chance to improve. Confidence grows through speaking, not through waiting for the perfect moment.
Before we finish, let's have our word tour. Duration means the length of time that something continues.
Journey is the act of traveling from one place to another.
Pattern is something that happens in a regular or repeated way.
Confident describes someone who believes in their own ability and isn't afraid to try.
Worthwhile means something is valuable because it brings a good result.
Those are all useful words you'll hear in everyday English, so try using one or two of them this week in your own conversations.
Thanks so much for spending this time with us. We always enjoy these conversations, and we hope they've made English feel a little simpler and a lot more enjoyable.
Take care of yourself, keep listening, keep speaking, and remember that every small step you take today is helping you become a more natural English speaker tomorrow. We'll see you in the next episode.